This week on the Financial Freeman podcast, we are going to discuss whether you should mix business with pleasure.
Yes, you should.
You should. Well, we do. So there you go. That's your answer wrapped up. That's your quickest ever answer.
He's my business and my pleasure.
Wrapped up in about 11 seconds. I think that was a record. So
thank you for listening. There's enough recommendation to act.
No, we're going to explore. There's an old idiom, I think the word is, that says you shouldn't mix business with pleasure. So we're going to discuss
and
that.
People live by that because I once a person who was suggested a JV partnership. Do you remember? And they came back and said, "No,
we don't want to mix business with pleasure." So I think it's recommended that you go back and listen to last week.
We're not friends anymore.
Now give us your money. It's recommended that you go back and listen to last week's episode where we discussed JVs, joint ventures, and why you might want to explore that as an option. And we're going to assume that you're in the position whereby you do want to go ahead with a JV. And so it comes to a decision where you're going to get your JV partner from. Where do you think?
Your network.
Your network. So there's an option of your network. There's an option is that if you've not even got a network, you've got to go out and find a network. So you could go to the first networking event and agree to JV with someone. It could be... I
just think that's easier said than done, but
yeah,
sure.
Exactly. It could be a very close friend, relative, someone you know in the industry. There's a number of different options. But we're going to discuss... we're going to concentrate on that close friends and family. And whether...
Well, not close friends.
Yeah, well, I guess... We're specifically here is the worry that it ruins your relationship.
Right.
So no one wants to ruin any relationship, but it's obviously potentially a lot worse, if that relationship gets ruined.
If you're blood!
If it's a close family member. You may never speak to them again. I guess all things wrong could...
I wonder what percent of family fallouts are over money. I'd say
quite a lot,
very high.
But not necessarily coming from
not
business, but a lot might be to do with the wills, and they're not happy with what the result of that is. So I would say quite a lot. A lot of fallouts just generally are to do with money, so it's more likely to be quite a lot. But here we're going to discuss whether just JVs are good with family and friends. So let's discuss why you would particularly go down that route.
Because you trust them.
You trust them.
Because you share things with them that you wouldn't share with other people.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, I don't think that's it. I think that's good, is that you trust, you've got that relationship already. You like them and you want to spend time with them. But I think
you want to help each other.
I think it's, right. So that was...
Invested interest.
You want to help each other. So it's not only will they want the project to work for themselves, but they would also want the project to work for you, which is really important because, this is they basically have got your interests at heart as well.
What were you going to say?
No, I was going to say, so apart from those two things, or three things, I'm not quite sure how many you've rolled into that, but apart from all of that, I think is that they have seen what you've been doing. So the probability is that they've not just agreed to enter this in straight away, that they probably want you to go and prove yourself. And if you have, they've been very close to what you've probably previously been doing and seen what your success is, hopefully, before you've even approached them, or before they agree at least to enter into a JV.
Before they approach you.
Oh, exactly. So it might well be the case that they are close to the kind of deals you are talking about. They actually want a bit of the action, yeah. And they get it, so that they are happy to get involved. Whereas obviously a stranger, so to speak, or someone who's not close to you, may not be as sold as much. They may not hear your face light up when you discuss a particular deal. They may not know how well you've done. They may not believe or understand everything you're saying. So you might just need to do a lot more work to get there. Here, when it's a family member, in theory, you should, as long as you're close, they might know quite a bit beforehand, and it's just a case of actually getting down to the nitty gritty and deciding exactly what you want from the joint venture. So they're the reasons to do it. I guess the reasons not to do it, and it's really the case of not to do any project, but I think it's exaggerated or highlighted when it is a family member.
What's exaggerated?
The downfalls. And that's the main thing, is that it all could go absolutely horribly wrong. So I guess
both lose money.
Worst case scenario is that
it's your fault.
Yeah, exactly. Worst case scenario.
Nah.
Yeah, exactly. You have this conversation.
Get out my house.
Where it's absolutely terrible. You lose pretty much everything. It's literally not gone anywhere near to plan.
Give me my money back.
Game over, probably, in terms of a relationship. And I think
Christmas ruined.
Second to that is probably a slight weakening of the relationship. But what I mean by this is that things just probably won't go to plan. 100%, they pretty much never do. And you then have to ask them for a bit more money, or it's delayed. Or they feel like
you behind your back.
Yeah, exactly. They feel like it just hasn't. You've oversold or something along those lines. Overslept, and that sounds personal. No, yeah, right.
It's just the over.
Right, okay. And that's overpromised and underdelivered. And that's, they may have that at the back of their heads, and it's a bit tarnished, so it might never be talked about. You may not have that blazing row, but it's a bit like, right, I wish we hadn't have done it, I think is probably where you get to. And again, your family dinners may be a bit frostier than they may have been beforehand, or your friends, again, may not be quite your friends that you thought they were. And that's, I guess, the two worst case scenarios. The other one is probably that you end up just, all you ever do is talk about whatever you've just gone involved in. So if it's buying a property, it becomes, 75% of your discussion topics become centered around that very thing. Now, you could argue that's not the worst thing in the world, because if it's something that you're both interested in, then I don't know, it could be quite fun. I mean, we don't discuss property, I'd say 75% of the time.
No, that's because we've got kids.
Oh yeah, so they're 75% and property the other 25. But yeah, it's you may not want your, I guess, family occasions or occasions when you're meeting up with your friends to be focused around that particular project, but you won't be able to do much about it because it will be at probably the centre of your attention. So if that's the case and you want to keep your friends or your family as whatever they were before, then
futile. That's the wrong word.
I think so. But if you do want to keep them as whatever they are at the moment and not kind of... I don't know what you're trying to say. Just say words that begin with F. Then you probably don't want to go down a route whereby that will take most of your attention. So there's obviously good reasons and bad reasons. But I think... This is a fairly short episode this week, because last week we were really long. But I think the conclusion is that there's good and bad points of a joint venture, and I think it's. What
are the bad points? You not cover the bad points.
Things can go terribly wrong. Yeah, so I think it's more of a question when you are business with pleasure.
But when you start a venture, you just don't think things are going to go terribly wrong.
No, but you've got to, and this is what we were saying last week, is that you've got to have this in mind. So it's really a question of, can you personally cope with it if that's a family member? Now, you should be thinking along the lines, or certainly I do, is that actually I think it's going to go well. We're going to plan also if it doesn't, but I want that family member to also enjoy our success, hopefully. And really, I want that family member to be or friend, close friend, to be part of it. And I think our relationship, and this is what's happened thankfully so far, is going to improve with whoever we do business with. I mean, that's hopefully you'll say that about ourselves, that I've gained respect working with Ronnie, and that I respect Ronnie more than, not that I did beforehand, but like it's helped me from a business point of view see how she works and the way she works with builders. Whereas if I didn't have that, then I'm not saying I won't respect it, but from it certainly helped.
It makes him really fancy me.
That's probably it for behind the cameras. But I think it does enhance the relationship, and that's the way I look at it. But if you're someone who would be really conscious of that, and just don't want to do anything to touch it, then maybe it's not the right thing for you. But what I would say is that maybe no joint ventures are the right things for you.
Some people are very personal.
And so I wouldn't necessarily say it's a family thing. And that's where my conclusion is that actually, I would say certainly there's no reason not to get involved with a close friend or family. For me personally, it's much better. I think even if you are going to get involved with someone who is potentially a bit more of a stranger, hopefully they'll become a closer friend, because the whole point is you're working closely together and you're with a common goal. And even if it's not day by day and you're only just reporting back to them, the likelihood is that you've now got a shared goal and a common ground. So actually, whilst they may have been a bit more stranger before you started the project, they actually grow into more of a closer friend anyway. So you're kind of back to square one. And then at that point...
With a friend that you didn't want...
well, yeah, with a friend. Yeah, exactly. So then what do you do? Do you quit? Well, no, you kind of then got a successful project. So I think it's a bit of... I don't like the statement. I would probably even go as far to...
statement?
You shouldn't mix business with pleasure.
All right.
You
went on a tangent.
And actually, I would say that should be probably
business
the
is pleasure for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think that should be your first step, possibly.
I mean, the amount of people who marry their colleagues and love their job and...
Tangent, yeah. But yeah, so have a think about it. If you are going to go down the joint venture route, I would recommend it. But if you feel like you're more comfortable with someone from a wider network, then good luck with that also.
The content of this podcast is for general information purposes and not a recommendation to act. Please contact us or an independent financial advisor if you would like to discuss further. Contact at gary.financialfreeman@gmail.com.
Goodbye for now.